All right, so we'll begin and people can continue joining. We'll not delay the agenda of the meeting. So, yeah, firstly, before beginning with the webinar, which will be conducted by Harmilan, I'd like to tell you guys a little about the Biology Society who is conducting this webinar. So, the Biology Society is a platform which we have created for like minded people who are interested in the field of biology so that they can, get to share their knowledge with each other and learn different aspects from different people. So, that's about it. And to know more about the Biology Society, I'll leave the link of our website in the chat box. And the moderator for today's session is Swanzil. So I'll hand it over to Swanzil.
So, welcome everyone. My name is Sonjul and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. Today, we have Harmilan Singh Chail among us to conduct the webinar. He is an undergraduate student pursuing BTech Biotechnology. He is an active member of the Biology Society and has various interests which include anthropology, the origin of science, history related to biology, and research on sciences in various cultures. He also has an interest in paleontology and fossil studies. Harmilan Singh is here with us today to deliver a fascinating webinar on traditional medicine development. Also, we will be having a Q&A space at the end, and any doubts during the webinar can be asked on the chat box, which can be taken towards the end. Welcome, Harmilan, and I would like to hand over the space to you.
So thank you, Swanzil. So today, everyone, I welcome you all to my webinar. It's on the traditional medicine development, that how the traditional medicines developed in various cultures in the human civilization. So we will know about the various kinds of medicines, their development, the basic philosophies behind that medicine, and so on. Traditional medicine development. As I told you all, we will discuss about its various philosophies, its cultural values, and how various cultures exploited herbs and another animal products as medicines. Introduction. Here we will first of all discuss what is a traditional medicine, its history, various types of traditional medicines, how it is used, and modern science and the traditional medicines, how the traditional medicine is adapting in the modern sciences and modern medical field. So first of all, let us begin with its introduction and definition. Traditional medicine. According to the World Health Organization, traditional medicines refer to health practices, approaches, knowledge, and beliefs incorporating plants, animals, and mineral-based medicines. And also, which is not regarded as scientific, but it includes spiritual therapies, manual techniques, and exercise applied singularly or in combination to treat the diagnosis and prevent illness or maintain well-being of the human body. The usage of traditional medicine varies in the world. Like for about 80% of the population in Asian and African countries still prefer traditional medicine over the Western medicine. Its history. Now in this we will discuss how the human civilization started exploiting herbs and all that for the medicinal purposes. The ancient era. The first written records that study herbs date back to 5,000 years to the ancient Sumerians. That's the region of the Mesopotamia. That's modern day Iraq and Syria, who described well-established medicinal uses for the plants. And so far, also goes to this knowledge was passed to the Babylonians and then to the various other civilizations that succeeded them. Many herbs and minerals used in Ayurveda were described by ancient Indian herbalists, such as the Charaka and Shushruta, during the first millennium BC. The first Chinese herbal book was Shenong Benkao Jing, compiled during the Han Dynasty but dating back to much earlier dates, which were later augmented by Yao Lan during the Tang Dynasty. That's about 1400 years from the present. Early recognized Greek compilers such as Aristotle and Pythagoras also studied herbal medicines and their exploits. Now we've moved towards from ancient era to the medieval era. The knowledge of the Indian Ayurveda and the Chinese medicine was passed down to the Arabs through trade. Like for example, the Arabic indigenous medicine derived from the conflict arose between the magic-based medicine of the Bedouin tribes. Those are the nomadic tribes of the Arabian deserts, and the Arabic translations of the Hellenic, that's the Greek medicine, and the Ayurvedic, that is the traditional Indian. Now, from the Arab era, the medicinal knowledge passed to the European countries. Like in the Spain, the Martin de la Cruz wrote about herbal in Nahuatl. Now, the Spanish colonized the Americas. Now, they exploited the traditional medicine of the Mesoamericans, that they were the Aztecs and the Mayas. So, the Martin wrote a book in Nahuatl language, which is a traditional American language, which were translated into Latin by Juan Badiano as Libus de Medicinalibus Indorum Herbis or Codex Barberini. Now, we are discussing about the New World people, and here and in 17th and the 18th century America, traditional folk healers, frequently women, used herbal remedies, cupping and leeching. Native American traditional herbal medicine introduced for malaria, dysentery, scurvy, non-venereal syphilis, and goiter problems. Here is a page from the Codex Barberini or the Libus de Medicinalibus Indorum Herbis. Now, the types of traditional medicines. Since our world is full of various cultures, each culture have its own traditional medicine, which it has opted or developed through the interaction of various other traditional medicines through the passage of the time. But in today's webinar, we will discuss about three main types of the traditional medicines. That are the traditional Chinese medicine, the traditional Islamic and Iranian medicine. Like, I want to specify here that the Iranian medicine and Islamic medicine are two different types, but since they developed simultaneously and often interacted with each other, so I have clubbed them here. And the Ayurveda, that's the traditional Indian medicine. So first of all, we will start with the traditional Chinese medicine. Now, China was one of the first human civilizations. Traditional Chinese medicine is a branch of the traditional medicine in China. It is said to be based on the compendium of the Materia Medica and Huangding Neijing. These are the ancient practitioners of the Chinese medicine. Now, the traditional Chinese medicine includes various forms of herbal medicines, the acupuncture technique, the cupping therapy, gusha, massage, bone setter, Qigong, and the dietary therapy. However, the basic tenets of the Chinese medicine is that the body's vital energy, that's known as qi in the Mandarin, is circulating through the channels called the meridians, having branches connected to the body organs and functions. So there is a vital energy theory behind the Chinese medicine that requires the flow of energy, vital energy, that's known as qi. Without it, we cannot understand the concepts of the Chinese medicine. The concept of body and of the disease used in the Chinese medicine reflect its ancient origins and its emphasis on the dynamic process over the material structure, similar in pseudo-scientific humoral theories of ancient Greece and the ancient Rome. Now, to understand the concept of qi, we have to understand the basic Chinese philosophy of the Taoism, that's the yin and yang symbol for the balance. In the Chinese philosophy, it is stated that the universe exists in a dual form, that there is a good and there is a bad in every single object or a living being and everything. So the white here, you can see, everyone can see this, that the white symbolizes the good, the black symbolizes the evil. there is a black dot in the white portion that represent there is an evil in the good, and the black, similarly, the white dot in black represent there is some good in the evil, and together they always coexist, and thus creating a balance in the universe, which is required for its proper functioning of the universe. It's the yin and yang symbol. So far, it is also applied to the medicinal theory in the Chinese text, that whenever the black portion dominates over the white one, the body gets imbalanced and thus it is ill. So as to cure that, we have to balance the white portion against the black one. And as for in the Chinese culture, the 5 main basic elements also play an important role in the proper functioning of the body. That's the fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. I know it sounds odd that what's wood doing here, but according to the Chinese, there was some kind of wood therapies too in the medicinal purposes. Now, also there is as I stated before, that there are channels through which the vital energy known as qi circulates in the body. So as to cure the flow of the qi or to concentrate it at a various point, the Chinese employed a therapy, and it is still employed, and known as the acupuncture, which is the insertion of needles into the superficial structures of the body, that are the skin, subcutaneous tissue, and the muscles, used as usually at acupuncture points. As I stated, they are aiming at the influencing the flow of the qi energy.
Okay, so let's then take a half time. We all can have our cameras on, and as of now, if you guys have any questions, then you can ask. I had a doubt. You explained about cupping therapy, so can you elaborate a bit on that?
So for the cupping therapy was a bit odd one, they used the various kinds of alternative medicines. It was suctioning type of thing sometimes. They employed, how can I explain that? They employed some kind of heated cups and employed it on the body like this. It created a vacuum and they sucked out the bad energy and all that. I know it's a bit sound like ridiculous but it was based on the ancient traditions, like dating back to 5,000 years. So according to the human mindset of that time, it makes sense according to the ancient era. But in the modern science, is nothing more than a pseudoscientific thing. That's why these are actually I just covered up over the brushing portions, brushed up parts, because it's.
So, okay, we have a question in the chat box. Does it work, cupping therapy?
They say it relieves from the inflammation and all that. So far, these results are based on the traditional views. Yes, Chinese acupuncture technique actually works. There's no doubt in that. It relieves from the muscle pain and all that. Sometimes the nerves are stretched, and it relieves pain of that. Like inserting needles at specific points. But the cupping therapy is much more related to the outer skin related things. I haven't seen that much cupping therapy, though acupuncture is much more prevalent in the Chinese rather than cupping. Is chi or similar to the chakra? Yes, it's similar to that. Like the energy flow, the chi, you can say it's the chakra. You see, the Japanese were influenced by the Chinese, so they named it. Actually, chakra is a Sanskrit word rather than a Japanese one. Chi is much more Chinese.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, Armin, then I guess we can continue with the webinar.
Okay.
because yeah, we'll keep it short, otherwise people get bored of classes anyways.
Now we move on to the Islamic medicine and somewhat on in the Iranian medicine, because the Islamic medicine was worked very much by the Iranian scholars of the medieval era. So it's a bit a mixed bit topic. So I just clubbed them both because the sources on the Iranian medicine are much more less than the Islamic one. But though Iranian influenced the Islamic medicine a lot. Some of the earliest records of the history of the Iranian medicine can be found in the Avesta, the primary collection of the sacred text of the Zoroastrianism. The Zoroastrians are known as the Parsis in India. The medical tradition of the Galen, that's a writer, and then thereby Hippocrates, the father of medicine, had dominated Islamic medicine from its beginning. Avicenna, that's the Latinized name of the Ibn Sina, sought to fit this tradition into the Aristotle's natural philosophy. So far, we can see that the Islamic guys are much more influenced by the Greeks. Like they are just not like the. If we draw a parallel with it, the Chinese medicine was based on the hypothetical concepts of the yin and the yang and the vital forces. However, we will find that the Islamic medicine was much more rational. The Ibn Sina began writing a canon in the Goranj, Iran, continued in the Ray, that's also in Iran, and completed it in the Hamadan in 1025. The result was a clear and ordered summa of all medical knowledge of the Ibn Sina's time. So that is, you can say, the main canon of the medieval medical in the Islamic era. It served as more a conscience reference in the contrast to the Galen's 20th volume of the medical corpus. Galen's were the Greek. Ibn Sina was the Islamic. The canon of this book is divided into 5 major books. The first one is the essay on the basic medical and physiological principles, anatomy, regimen, and the general therapeutic procedures. The second book is list of the medical substances arranged alphabetically following an essay on their general properties. Third one is the diagnosis and treatment of diseases specific to the one part of the body. Fourth one is diagnosis and treatment of conditions covering multiple parts of the entire body. Fifth one is the formulas of the compound remedies, like the various medicines which were a mixture of various herbs. Now the book 1, 3, and 4 are further divided into parts, that's known as in Persian funds, the chapters, talims, the subchapters, the jumlas, and the sections, fasals, and the subsections, babs. You can say it is a kind of medical college in the ancient medieval Iran, Islamic era, Iran. Now, these are the written records of the first book in the Arabic. It's the Arabic manuscript. Originally, it was written in the Persian. The book which Ibn Sina wrote. And there are also the drawings of the circulatory nervous systems, like in this book known as the Tashri-e-Badan-e-Insan, the anatomy of the human body, circa 1450 AD. As you can see, there is a well-drawn structure of the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves splitting out of it. So we can say that it was much more rational based, as they were carrying out the operations and surgeries. So we can draw the parallel with the Western medicine. So as I stated before, the Westerns were influenced by the Arabs. So the Islamic medicine played an important role in the medical sciences. Now let's come to the Ayurvedic system. I hope most of us have taken Ayurvedic medicine at some point of our life. It's the traditional medicine of the Indian subcontinent. The word Ayurveda is Sanskrit, the Ayurved, meaning the knowledge of life and the longevity. According to the Ayurveda, the human body is composed of the tissues, the dhatus, the waste, the mals, and the biomaterials known as the dosh. The seven dhatus are the plasma, that's known as ras, the blood, the rakt, muscles, the mass, the fat, med, bone, asthi, marrow, majj, and the semen, shukra. I hope you guys must have heard these names, like the Sanskrit terms. These are our traditional terms. So we almost come. Now the 8 components of the Ayurveda. The earliest classical Sanskrit works on the Ayurveda describes the medicine as being divided into 8 components. The Kaya Chikitsa, the general medicine, the medicine of the body. It deals with the normal medicine. Now the second book is the Komara Bharitya, pediatrics. Discussion about the prenatal and the postnatal care of the baby and mother. Methods of conception, choosing the child's gender, intelligence, and the constitution. The childhood disease and the midwifery. You can say it's the ancient gynae. The Shalya Tantra, the surgical techniques and the extraction of the foreign objects from the body. The Shalakaya Tantra, the treatment of the ailments affecting ears, eyes, nose, throat, and mouth. ENT, if we draw the modern parallel. Now the fourth one is, now the fifth one is a bit pseudo-scientific. It's known as the Bhut Vidya, the pacification of the possessing spirits and the people whose minds are affected by such possessions. The sixth one is the Agadantra Tantra or Vishagara Virodha Tantra, that is called toxicology. It includes subjects about epidemics, toxins in the animals, vegetables, and the minerals. It as well as contains key for the recognizing those anomalies and their antidotes. The Rasyan Tantra, rejuvenation of and the tonics for increasing lifespan, intellect, and strength. Vajikya Karna Tantra, aphrodisiacs and the treatment for the increasing the volume and viability of semen and sexual pleasure. It's also deal with the infertility problem and the spiritual development. Now, this is a diagram about the dosh. That is the basis of the Ayurveda. You can see there is a pentagram here, and the 5 outer triangles represent the 5 basic elements: the ether, the earth, the water, the fire, and the air. As you can see, this is much more similar to the Chinese one. Like they also had the 5 basic elements. So there was wood instead of the ether. And the central part covers the 3 main compositions that constitute the body. That's the Vat, Pitta, and Kapha. And after things influence them, like the movement, the cold, the light, transformation, and cohesion. Now, these are some of the principal early texts on the Ayurveda: the Chakra Samhita, the Shruta Samhita, and the Bela Samhita. All these were written about 2500 years ago in the Mahajanpaderas of the late Vedic period. So now it ends with, we will end with the scientific, the 3 main traditional medicines. Now we come to the modern science and traditional medicine. Traditional medicine is often contrasted with the scientific medicine. The WHO notes that the inappropriate use of the traditional medicine or practices can have negative or dangerous effects. And further research is needed to ascertain the efficiency and safety of such practices and medicinal plants used by the traditional medicine system. As you can see that the Western medicine is much more quantized and has set of limits and various kinds of, it is studied extensively rather than the just based on the guess type things. Like most of the traditional practitioners follow, like there's not proper quantization of the medicine in the traditional medicine, like in the Western medicine. So that can lead to negative or dangerous effects. or sometimes the plants they use can be allergic to someone that can lead to problems in the body. And there is also a lot of criticism of the traditional medicine. The first, there were the safety concerns. Although 130 countries have regulations on folk medicine, there are risks associated with the use of them, especially with the animals, the medicines which use the animal-based substances. Like there are the threat of the zoonosis, which is a protozoan disease. Like it spreads from the meat. And it is often assumed that because supposed medicines are natural, that they are safe, but numerous precautions are associated with using herbal remedies also. Now the use of the endangered species. Now here steps in the animals which are used are often endangered. And like for example, the slow loris in the Southeast Asia. All these regions are Chinese influenced. So we can say the root problem of the using endangered species lies in the Chinese traditional medicine, like the shark fins have been also been used in traditional medicine, although their effectiveness has been not proven. It has hurt the shark populations in the eastern China Sea and the southern China Sea, and their ecosystem. The illegal ivory trade, like that can be partially traced back to buying in the traditional Chinese medicine, have also damaged the population of the elephants and also the use of the rhino horns in the traditional Chinese medicine. So far, as I have not stated here, that there are many snakes, also insects too, and so far the plants too that are endangered in the Chinese ecosystem that have been used heavily in its traditional medicine. So our webinar ends. I hope you liked it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for delivering such an enlightening webinar, and thank you to our wonderful audience as well. To be updated about our future webinars, you can follow the links on our social media, and the recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel. Also, if you are interested in becoming a member of the Biology Society, you can access the membership form that is in the chat box.